Hello, everyone. Welcome to our Spiritual Spotlight series. Today, I am joined by the author, Kim Cantin. She wrote Where Yellow Flowers Bloom, which is right here, and I will make sure to link the book when I post up the interview. It's a true story about hope through unimaginable loss. Kim unfortunately lost her husband, her son, and her dog in the deadly 2018 Montecito flash flooding and debris flows. And it was been a journey of over 4 years and with writing this book and everything. Kim, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today. I'm so excited you're here.
Thank you for having me.
So it's interesting, like, so 5 years later, you hope that your survival story will help others, which definitely just for me reading it myself, and I'm all the way across the coast in New York, and
Hmm.
I was like, oh my goodness. And for me, who's a very spiritual person, I love the fact that you are willing to be open to signs and intuitive symbols and things
Yes.
like that.
Hmm.
Um, but I guess what I kind of want to say is in the book, I'm just going to go through a couple things. And if there's anything you want to talk about, please make sure to bring it up.
Hmm.
You mentioned in the book that you were more spiritual, and it was kind of towards the end, and open to believing people with intuitive abilities. And I'd be curious, what were your beliefs like that before this unimaginable loss happened to now?
Yeah, good question. There was nothing negative
Mhm.
about intuitives or mediums. I
Sure.
just was on a hamster wheel in the rat race, right? I had a big job. I
Yeah.
had two teens. I had a husband. I had a house to take care of. I had a big dog. So my life was just busy. Any spare moment was with my kids or at work,
Of course.
or with my husband. So I didn't have time to explore this whole spiritual realm. And after you lose someone, there's many books you can read on, um, grief books and
Yeah.
the afterlife books. And so it kind of, my life changed so dramatically after that incident that I had more time to do that.
It's interesting, like, when you went through this, I mean, like, traumatic, very traumatic experience, like just even reading your experience of what your body went through.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like, oh my goodness, where's my daughter? Where's my son? Where's my husband? Like, I mean, how does somebody pick themselves up after that, like, to move forward?
Well, it's not easy. I came to the table with strong faith that helped me.
Hmm.
I had amazing friends. So people were my anecdote. And then I was just open and vulnerable to all the help that I needed because I
Hmm.
knew this was really bad and I knew I needed grief help. I needed trauma counseling help. My
Right.
daughter needed help. I needed physical rehabilitation. So I was just open to it. I think I was
Mhm.
just stripped, filleted open. And I was like, okay, trust the process and take advice from people who gave me really good recommendations.
That is really good, especially the fact that I think sometimes when we suffer really traumatic losses, sometimes people kind of withdraw and they go within, and then it's almost like they become a shell of themselves,
Mm-hmm.
with my brother committed suicide about 5 years
I'm
ago.
sorry to hear that.
Oh, it's okay, but thank you though. But it's like it was interesting to see how everyone kind of went down a different path. Like, some of us went through counseling and grief counseling,
Mm-hmm.
and some of us really, that's, I turned more spiritual. I've always been on this path. Some of us turned super Christian, and it was just like,
Yeah.
and yeah, and I'm sure it's the same thing for you. Some days are super hard. Some days you're just, I'm good, and other days are probably really good days. Because grief, do you feel like grief and sadness, and I think the answer, I know, already know this, it definitely comes in waves. Does it feel like that?
Absolutely. I think so. And none of us get out of here alive, right? And one of the human experiences is grief, especially if
Mhm.
we've loved, right? And so
Yeah.
we'll all face it.
Right.
And it comes in waves. I get it a lot when I'm driving. I don't know if it's because I'm driving, I'm kind of let my guard down when you're in your
Yeah.
car, and I'm like, sometimes I just feel it more. So yeah, you don't know when you're going to get it, but you just got to roll with it when it comes.
That's interesting because in the last couple of months, we've received some, pretty shocking news with one of my loved ones has stage 4 cancer.
Oh.
And you do like, it's interesting. The only reason why I'm bringing that up is because you're right. It hits you in the car. And it's like, for me, I'm like, oh, that's when I can cry. That's when I can kind of, let go. Because I mean, even for you now, like you still have a daughter that you have
Mm-hmm.
to, make sure that she's
Care
okay.
for.
And yeah. And then other family and friends and things like that. Now, Jack, your son, when this terrible thing happened, your husband's body was found pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Your son, on the other hand, took over 3.5 years.
Yeah, there was 23 victims that
Yeah.
awful night, and two, a baby girl, Lydia, she was two,
Yes.
and then my 17-year-old son were considered missing because
Mm-hmm.
they couldn't recover their bodies. So yeah, I was involved in a search for about 3 years, and so was the I had an anthropology team at the University of California, Santa Barbara, led by Dr. Danielle Curran,
Mm-hmm.
and she helped us too.
What I thought was your determination and your drive to make sure that you were able to, find him. And I I think her name was Catherine, and she gave you like the
Yeah.
intuitive hits, and it's like pieces of me. And then
Yes.
like you
Yeah.
had all of these different, signs and symbols. And the thing is that you were able to kind of, you still held on hope to find him. And then what did it feel like? I mean, because there were times where I felt like it within the book, and I'm not sure if this is correct, where it's kind of like people are like, we're not able to do this anymore. Like we can't continue, searching. I know, but you really drove it. Like, no, we're
Oh
doing this.
yeah, like gosh, what's the date from when it happened? January 9th to about Super Bowl Sunday. So that
Yeah,
was it was in February, Super Bowl Sunday, and then January. So say a month, okay, of
yeah,
intensive work with the search and rescue dogs and everything. But after that, they kind of, he's still missing. We're still kind of looking, but there was not activity as much per se.
right.
And so I knew that if these kids were going to be found, I had to engage because
Yeah.
I had the most vested interest, and so did Lydia's mom,
Mm-hmm.
and so I engaged to do that, and I came up with a sacred search team of people I didn't know before that kind of showed up in my life,
Mm-hmm.
and they stayed for the long haul, and they were my angels. And one of them said when it was like probably year three, Rachel, it's year
Mm-hmm.
three, and a lot of the piles are now gone, and we're kind of like, where else should we go? And Anne, who was on the team, said to Sherry on the team, she kind of looked around after a day we'd been working, and I had just left, and she goes, when do we think we're going to be done here? Because there didn't seem any more piles. And I think Sherry said, when Kim says we're done. And that was
Oh,
the biggest gift for someone in grief. It was not on their time. It
yeah.
was on my time, the
Mm-hmm.
person who was in the grief. And that is the message I want to take with me,
Yeah.
that when I see someone in grief, it's on their time to be present for them, to be compassionate with them,
Mm-hmm.
because grief is nonlinear, and we all do it in different times.
Yeah.
Mine was very delayed. Mine was 5 years with I think, to get through on my husband, because he didn't get much attention at the beginning. I had my daughter to stabilize, my
Right.
son to find, learn to walk again. And so I was longer than the average bear.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I mean, how long were you and your husband married for?
20 years.
Wow.
He was a great guy.
Um, so I do want to talk about Jack a little bit more. You had many signs from Jack throughout your journey of
Mm-hmm.
locating him. And I know you touch upon them in the book. What are some of the moments that stand out to you the most?
Oh, well, there was one at his, we did a memorial service at
Mm-hmm.
the historic Santa Barbara mission. It's a beautiful mission. And it was all full. And as soon as his friend Ellie, his dear friend Ellie, was up at the lectern giving a eulogy, from the back door of the mission where people walk in, two birds swooped in, and one started flitting around the altar, and the other went to sit on a windowsill and just watch. And the Catholic priest stopped, and he's like, "That's Jack. That's got to be Jack." And so many people commented coming
Mm-hmm.
out in the receiving line. They're like, "Could you believe those birds?" And they're like, "We've been at the mission for years in this parish, and we've never seen that." So that was really astonishing to me.
Mhm.
And then it was pictures always seem to show up when
Yeah.
I most need it the most. People, because I lost all those pictures. So people will
Yeah.
send me pictures in the mail or I'll get them on email. And kind of just when I need it, they show up. I think Jack does it a lot with pictures.
Yeah.
And then on Valentine's Day, 404 days since the slide, I'm in the car going to LA. We're being driven to LA with my daughter for some flight. And I see a text from another mudslide survivor. And she says, look at the lost and found site that they put in place for Montecito for all of us that lost our stuff that was spread now all over
Yeah.
town. And she goes, there's an ultrasound there. And I go, what? And so I looked at the post and I was, my jaw dropped. It was the ultrasound of baby Jack in my belly that was found on Valentine's Day, 404 days or so
Mhm.
since the mudslide. And it had been in the elements in a little plastic sleeve found wedged between rocks at Butterfly Beach in the elements for 404 days in
Yeah.
perfect condition with my name on it.
That's just
Valentine's Day.
phenomenal.
It couldn't have been better.
Yeah, of course. It's him sending you love. I'm still with you. Wow.
Yeah, and the ultrasound, which was when we were together,
Yeah.
our bodies were together.
That's phenomenal. And I know you found like his costume and you
Superman costume.
yeah, and then an ornament and it was
Hmm.
just and the fact like you said like these things are still in good condition. Like
Yeah,
it's
yeah. Each time we found stuff like that, because the search was so fatiguing. It was 30 square miles. It was
mhm,
needle in a haystack stuff. It was really, we'd go out, find nothing, go out, find nothing. So when we found something like that of significance, right, his Superman costume, and it matched one of the intuitive clues that was really a bonanza.
mhm.
Um, um, it was a jolt in the arm. Rob Lowe came out with us. He lives in the area, and he went to help do a little searching. And as soon as he got down into the creek, he found my husband's Red Sox baseball jersey, and my husband loved the Red Sox. And so that
I
was
love
just this
that.
jolt in the arm. Keep looking, don't give up.
That's amazing. And then also you had tremendous outpouring from the community just to help you.
Tremendous.
Tremendous. And was it a tight-knit community before this tragedy happened?
Yeah. So Santa Barbara, there's something I think very unique about it. It's not that big of a place. A lot of people there live a long time. And since you run into people all the time, people take care of one another.
Mhm.
And the level, and there's, I think, there's so many nonprofits there to take care, like um, to do stuff for food banks or for cancer patients or whatever. It's so there's something in the air. I don't know what it is, but
Mhm.
the town has a lot of compassion, and it obviously brought us even closer
Right.
um, of how people helped.
Wow, that's tremendous. I would now you've already kind of answered this question, but I was going to ask you, do you still see signs from Jack such as birds?
Yeah, I was just went on a trip to on the East Coast, and as soon as I got there, the first little bird that flew in front of me was a cardinal, right? And a cardinal's supposed to be, and I've seen him come back a couple times, so that makes me smile. Um,
I,
yeah,
I I want to say something. So I when I was getting ready for this interview, I was, open up my closet door and I'm like, oh, I want to wear a necklace. And the one necklace I was going to wear, but I didn't put on was a cardinal. Like it's a
yeah,
for my grandma. And I'm like, oh,
yeah,
okay, Jack, thank you.
yeah. He's very. What I've heard from the intuitives and the mediums
Mhm.
who were trying to really help me with Jack and Dave and stuff. They said Jack is very communicative.
Yeah.
Dave is a little quieter, but Dave
Mhm.
was a quieter guy. Like I
Mhm.
can say that just fits his personality. Um, Jack, I think, has really, really tried because he knew his mom needed this. She needed some closure.
Now, do you ever get signs from your husband?
Yeah, I think so. Electricity's kind of messed with a little bit,
Mhm.
lights flickering. What else with Dave? Yeah, I think, and also I think birds too. I mean, there's two little birds that sit out on my there's power lines in the distance from
Yeah,
my master bedroom, and there's two little birds that like to sit in there and look. Yeah, I think
that's
so.
interesting. I told you before we started that there's activity that happens in this room. I don't know what it is about this room, but I promise you something just touched the back of my neck. I think
Mm,
that may have been Dave. I'm not
mm,
sure. I'm not a medium,
mm,
but I am very intuitive. I'll come back to you when I become a medium.
mm.
I do want to ask you this. Any advice you can give someone that's experiencing a profound loss and going through the grieving process?
I'd say trust the process,
Mm-hmm.
that you have to go through it to get through it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's easy just to try to swallow it and not deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
But that's just going to hurt your body, right? It's going to
Yeah.
manifest. The body keeps the score. And so when I would try to tell my daughter, if she saw me crying, I would tell her, this is really good. Because what I understand is there's different chemicals in tears for grief than
Yeah.
tears if you skinned your knee and hurt yourself.
True.
And those are healing. And so trust the process to heal, to
Mm.
go through whatever you're feeling. If it's anger, if it's sadness, if it's whatever, just go through it to get through it, right? Go through
Yeah.
it to get through it and just keep going.
And what healing modalities do you feel helped you the most with the grieving process? I know there was a part in there you were talking about Reiki and
Yeah, I did Reiki. So I did a lot of things. And I think no one thing was a silver
of course.
bullet. I think it
Mm-hmm.
was the blend. I did talk therapy with a
Mm-hmm.
was a therapist, a grief therapist. I did group therapy with people who survived the mudslide. So those are really helpful, right? Because we're all
Yeah.
in it together and we learn nuggets from one another and support from one another, that we get what we're going through tough times. I did Reiki, which I found very helpful for me. I did EMDR, which is a tapping thing for
Yeah.
post-traumatic stress. I've been starting to do somatic therapy,
Oh,
which is
nice.
this touching therapy
Yeah.
that's supposed to help get you in touch more with your nervous system that got
Mm-hmm.
kind of overloaded in the trauma. Um, what else am I doing? Yeah, I think I did a lot.
You
And
did a lot.
widows group. Yeah, I was just every day I was like, what do I go to next? Right. But my goal, right? I knew I had gone through something horrible. I knew I wanted to be a well-functioning person in society, that I
Mm-hmm.
could take care of my daughter. And, and I wanted to live a joyful, meaningful life, because that's the best way I can honor my husband and my son.
That's
It wasn't going to help me if I sat in a corner with sucking my thumb and feeling sorry for myself. That would just make my husband and son sad.
right, right. Right. That's it's interesting. Yeah, because it like the will to keep continue to live, like part of our human experience, our soul residing in a body is to have a human experience.
Yeah.
And it sounds like you were very, very supportive. Did you ever have times where people were like, just get over it or anything like that? Or no, did you not have that experience?
I was pretty fortunate,
Mhm.
right? But you do have, look, I changed from the mudslide, I think, right? I
Yeah.
mean, I was a busy career woman, and
Yeah.
now I'm not working, right?
Mhm.
I wrote a book and taking care of my daughter and learning to use my knees properly again. So they didn't want their friend to change. So just like, because my experience has changed and what my life looks like today,
Mhm.
friendships ebb and flow, and that's
Right.
normal. I still love them and they love me. But if they're working the grind, right,
Mhm.
they can't go to lunch with me on a Wednesday at noon or at 1, because they've got an office meeting, right?
Yeah.
So I've doing more stuff with some of my retired friends that
Yeah.
retired a little early.
It's very nice. Now, this is an important the title of your book is very important. So can you please tell us a little bit of why Where Yellow Flowers Bloom is so important to the title of this book?
Oh, I'd love to. So um and I give credit to my daughter for the title.
Oh, I love that.
So where the bones were found, when the university team ultimately found some bone,
Mhm.
it was in these piles that had the mud and debris. Well, if you think about 400 homes being destroyed, their garages with all their toxic paints and their oils and all the
Yeah.
insulation was in that soil. So the soil that was dispersed around was called a toxic soup, and it had arsenic in it and everything else. So what the professor said is nothing should grow there. Nothing should
Right.
grow there.
Mm-hmm.
And what happened was, on that pile where the bones were found, it was graced with beautiful yellow wildflowers. And one of the students went and clipped some and put them in a vase and took them over to my house and said, life found a way. And I
Aw.
said, thank you, but I think it's love found a way, right? It just was so, it was so amazing. And so now it's the metaphor for life. Where yellow flowers bloom is a metaphor for life, which is look for the good and the beauty where there otherwise you would think there should be none, because
Mm-hmm.
there will be some beauty somewhere. You can find the beauty in it.
Absolutely. Now, did your belief in after the afterlife and heaven shift after this? Or
Well,
has it always been the
I
same?
was a Sunday school teacher, so I thought of heaven with the pearly gates, angels with wings. It's all good.
Yeah.
It's a nice place to be. Um, and it was a place up there.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm more. I think heaven's all around us in a frequency our human eyes
Yeah.
can't see.
Yeah.
And so I think Jack and Dave are around me all the time, and they could be other places all the time too. I think we just can't comprehend in our humanness
Mm-hmm.
the magnificence of it all. And I bet it is. I think they're in pure joy.
I love that. Now, one of the things you did mention in the book was the whispers. Like
Yeah.
the whispers.
Yeah.
And can you tell me a little bit about the whispers?
Yeah. I knew I wanted a chapter on whispers. And that was an early thought I had, because I started to reflect after the mudslide going, I wonder, there was some unique things that had occurred before the mudslide with my husband, with my son, that made me wonder, did their soul at a level that wasn't at a conscious level for them
Mm-hmm.
know that they were going to be leaving this earth soon?
Yeah.
And I reflected on that. Like, for example, Dave went and got the insurance redone. And our neighbor who died too did the same thing.
Wow.
And he fell and he broke his ring finger, that had a big joint because
Mm-hmm.
of baseball injury. And so he had to get his wedding ring because it swelled up. He had to get it cut off.
Right.
So for a while he wasn't wearing his wedding ring. And we just, it was around Christmas. We didn't want to go out and spend another $1,000 on a ring, right? Because you're buying Christmas gifts. And he had a dream with his late brother. His brother died at 17 from a congenital disease. And in the dream, his brother kept pointing to his finger, said, get it replaced, get it replaced. So Dave told me his dream, which he never really told me his dreams.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes, Michael was in my dream saying, we got to get the ring replaced. I'm like, well, I don't really feel like I want to spend the $1,000 right now, but let's go and get you the new ring today.
Yeah.
Because, and now I have that ring. Right. I have that.
Mm-hmm.
I have it on a necklace that I can wear if I want to feel close to him. And Jack, he would always, he was, you asked him what he wanted to be in life, and he said a billionaire. Go have fun with that. But he would always give me his list of what he wanted for Christmas with the links, all this gaming stuff. And
I love it.
And he wasn't doing that this year at 17. And I'm like, maybe he's just maturing. And I said, hey, Jack, what's your Christmas list? And he goes, I don't really need anything, Mom. And that was really weird for me. That was really that was a whisper for me, because I'm like, he's saying he doesn't need anything. The guy who likes it all,
the billionaire,
the future billionaire with his gaming chair. Yeah.
That's so interesting. One of the things when I'm with my clients is I always tell them to listen for the whispers of divine, because I do feel like there's always signs and symbols that are coming for you. Yeah. Look how you got even the letter that your daughter wrote, and she kind of had that bad feeling, that intuitive sense of something's not right.
Something bad's gonna happen.
Yeah, and it's making me speechless. But it's just always listen for the whispers from divine. Like, people are trying to, our loved ones.
Nudge us.
Yes, trying to move us forward, because the one thing I do want to say is that, we're never alone. We always have some type of spiritual force that is guiding us forward. And
Mhm.
yeah, I think that's a phenomenal that you wrote about the whispers. So what are your hopes with your book and maybe the silver linings throughout your healing process?
The book for me became a passion project. I first started it just, to get down the information, and then I realized it was healing for me, and it's done a
Mhm.
really, really significant job in propelling my healing,
Yeah.
and shifting, getting through a lot of it. And then I realized I think it might help others, and the people who've read it have really come to thank me, and I've been really touched by it. They're like, "Please,
Mhm.
thank you for writing this book. This really helped me." And even people who weren't in grief were like, that made me look at things a little differently in my
Yeah.
life. And that is that's why it's become a passion project. You want to put purpose to the horrible thing that happened, right? And I think there's
Mhm.
Frankel's book, Man's Meaning of Life, I think, and he says if you have something bad happen or a tragedy, putting purpose to it gives it some meaning,
Mhm.
and so it's not for naught. And so if this book is maybe part of that, that it helps some other people, that gives a better purpose to this nightmare that I went through,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, it's like it probably was cathartic for you to get it out to
Absolutely.
paper,
Yeah.
and now it's going to create ripples,
I
of
hope.
healing for, anyone that picks up and reads it. And it's like, okay, if and some people may even, like, for me, it's like, wow, if she were able to come through that and still, like you said, you want to have a joyful, meaningful life, and you're living it day to day, then I think I can get through being upset at traffic,
Right. You know what someone told me? The great thing. There's A problems, B problems, and C problems in
Yeah.
life, right?
Yeah.
The C problems are someone cuts you off and takes your parking spot, right?
Yeah.
The B problems are maybe a bankruptcy, maybe you know,
A
um,
divorce.
a divorce, right?
Mhm.
A problems are the unfixables, the deaths.
Yes.
And so you put it in context. Is this just some nuisance? Someone's cutting me off. Like, who
Mhm.
cares? Let it go. Let it go.
Absolutely. It's not that big of a deal. It's
Yeah,
not
it
like
isn't.
our first world problems,
Yeah.
are kind of ridiculous. One of the things, and I'm sorry, I'm going to jump back in the book, you talked about the sculpture Melancholy.
I love that one.
What a beautiful, and I made sure to print out a picture
It's
of
such a great image of grief.
like was this something you found when you're kind of going, yeah, what a
I was stunned by that. That said it all. That said it
yes,
all.
the emptiness of,
Yes.
yeah,
The
I
sorrow and the emptiness,
yes,
right? The empty chest, the leaning down. Yeah.
yeah.
Such a
What a
beautiful sculpture.
I had to look it up because I'm like, what is this? Like what is it? But when I saw, it, I was like, oh my goodness, like this
Yeah.
encapsulates it. Anything else that you would like to add for the listener about your book, or anything else maybe that you're working on? I know you do a lot of
Sure.
fundraisers
Yeah.
and
If they want the book, they can get it on Amazon where Yellow Flowers Bloom. That's easy to do there.
mhm,
It's in some bookstores in Santa Barbara.
nice.
Um, and I'm doing some speaking
Nice.
engagements, and yeah, I mean, I would just say, hug your loved ones, and you know, do something nice for someone. It makes a difference.
It does. Just something as simple as a smile can go a
Something
long
as simple
way.
as a smile.
Yeah,
Hmm.
you don't know what anyone else is. I'm a registered nurse. I run a doctor's office.
Oh, great.
And I'm always reminded that you don't know what someone else is going through.
Nope.
Like if I were to see you out in public, I'd be like, "Oh, you know what I mean?" I wouldn't know that you had this.
I had a backstory, right? And
Yeah,
everyone has a backstory. Could be
absolutely.
how they were raised in their family and they were
Mhm.
abused or treated poorly. Everyone has a backstory.
Yeah. Well, Kim, I just want to thank you so much for coming on the Spiritual Spotlight
Thank you for
series.
having me.
It's a beautiful book. I recommend anyone that is, has grief or trauma or just looking even for hope and inspiration. I highly recommend you check out this book, Where Yellow Flowers Bloom. And like she said, you can get it on Amazon. And thank you all so much for listening to us, and we'll see you again soon.